Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and make the veteran community a better place. Quick reminder, if you are a female veteran who has ever served in California or is currently serving, or if you have lived in California and you're now living somewhere else, please take the California Female Veterans Survey. The VA is putting this survey out to hear the voices of women veterans to help improve their facilities for female veterans. The link is in my bio. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. So I am really excited to chat about today's topic. So in my reel, it says, veterans don't need to be honored, we need to be healed. Can we honor the sacrifice veterans have made without glamorizing military service? It's a fine line to toe, but I believe it is necessary for our community to heal. During this episode, I want to discuss where the culture of honoring veterans come from and why it is used by governments, politicians, and corporations. I would also like to assess the effectiveness of this honor and what does it really do to support veterans. I like to attend veteran events where there are panels, there are inspiring speakers, and usually some sort of ceremonial aspect to it. It is a great way to feel a part of something and to understand the issues veterans are facing, as well as understand the history. However, I can't help but get a little pit in my stomach when the inevitable glorification of serving your country comes into play. And by this I mean it can be a simple phrase of fighting for your freedom and protecting our country. It just doesn't always sit well with me, and I know I'm not alone in this, especially for us post 9/11 veterans. I believe it is incredibly important to acknowledge the sacrifices and the thousands of lives lost, but saying it was in the name of freedom kind of just always leaves me uneasy. I think it would do a lot more justice of those whose lives have been impacted and lost to be honest about the repercussions of the war and how we can heal those that are still battling at home. We can trace honoring those who have gone to battle all the way back to ancient Rome, where soldiers were greeted by triumphant ceremonies and celebrations. Professionalism of the military started to happen in the 17th and 18th centuries, where military service became a respected profession as well as a family tradition that was usually passed down through high status and leadership positions. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the rise of nationalism and patriotism furthered the culture of honoring veterans, as service was seen as a duty to one's nation. After World War I and World War II, we see the trend of memorials being erected in recognition of veterans returning from those wars. These wars also gave birth to many veteran organizations that carried on that honor along with advocacy to those who have borne the battle. Armistice Day was proclaimed November 11th, 1919 by President Woodrow Wilson. It was a commemoration to the end of World War I that had happened the year prior, and it was a way to honor the veterans of that war. It was later expanded to include all veterans in 1954 by President Eisenhower, and it was officially changed to Veterans Day. Now, that is a very brief history, but it kind of shows how America has taken on that role of honoring veterans, especially through government means. So honor is for those who are still alive, but our country, as well as many others, have a strong tradition of memorials that are representative of those who have lost their lives. Usually memorials aren't created at random, but in reaction to a political event or some societal shift. As Arthur Danto put it, we build memorials so that we shall never forget, whereas memorials ritualize remembrance and mark the reality of ends. This message, while initially uplifting, never stands the test of time. What one generation sees as a truth, the next sees as an empty slogan or lies. And I think many of us have come to terms with this in our own just growth and education of the wars, what they meant at the time, and now looking back at them through retrospect and different lens, what they actually meant throughout the world. A great example of this is the creation of Civil War memorials in the South, and they were during the time of the Civil Rights Movement. The intention was not to really honor the Confederate generals, but it was to send a darker political message. So this just shows the weaponizing of memorials. But there's also another side. I cannot rule out the fact that there is value in these places of dedication. Memorials are often seen as a way for the veteran to receive closure. Honor Flight is an incredible program that brings veterans from all over the country to see the memorials and Arlington Cemetery in D.C. Many are able to find healing and resolution in visiting these sites. There is a heaviness when going through the memorials, such as the Vietnam, which is a simple wall etched with the thousands of names of the fallen. The Korean memorial is also similar in heaviness, as you can see the statues of soldiers in the field and the looks of terror on their faces. You can see how young they were. It shows the horror of war. And yet, etched on the other side is a sign that says, freedom isn't free. Freedom isn't free, but what is the story we are portraying with that phrase? I'll leave that up to you. Days of recognition are also a government customary way of honoring veterans, as I mentioned earlier. It is also a cheap way to honor veterans. It doesn't cost much to put out a proclamation and do a ceremony, so that is why we see it a lot. These days turn into a way for businesses in corporate America to tag in and show their support by offering discounts and free meals on holidays such as Veterans Day. I asked our Instagram group channel how you all felt about honor culture when it comes to veterans, and a few of your answers mentioned Veterans Day. Here's one quote: "They would rather give a day than help the disabled or homeless veterans." And another person said, "Feels like they are taking advantage of a day for veterans and making it about PR." Some others responded to how they feel when they are thanked for their service. "It makes me feel uncomfortable, but it is a nice gesture from the community." Awkward, weird, insincere were also very common words used in the replies. A lot of people explain the awkwardness through, well, I feel like I didn't do anything, I just did 4 years, and yeah, I can relate to that a lot as well. But I personally feel as if thank you for your service, it comes from a good place. In my own experiences, someone told me to respond with thank you for your support, and I think that is a very constructive response because it acknowledges that the support of veterans means a lot, and it may be a reminder to the person saying it. So feel free to take that response as your own because sometimes it can be awkward and be like, thank you, but that's why I always just say thank you for your support. So I was chatting with Ivan Ingraham. He's a 24-year Marine veteran, and he's written some incredible articles on related subjects. And he points out that there is such a disconnect between the reality of military service and what civilians believe it to be. Civilians may take sentiments from Hollywood and other media that glorify war and apply them to the feelings of the modern warfighter. But in reality, not all veterans feel that way, and many have mixed feelings about their service. There's not always that pride or that honor that they feel about their service. There can be, different sides of the coin. For example, when Ivan was discussing the failed withdrawal from Afghanistan, he states the following: "The war has ended. We veterans are alone with our own sense of guilt and individual shame or pride. We have to accept things as they are. However, had I not served at all, it would have been a towering regret. I am proud to have been a part of it, even if sometimes it feels a bit demoralizing." I thought that was so well said, and I think it wraps up what a lot of veterans feel and maybe have not put words to, but there's just those mixed feelings about service. I feel like I would always have had a regret if I didn't serve, but am I proud about the initiatives that I was a part of? I'm not sure I could say that. So if you want to read his full article, DM me and I can send you the link to it. He's got a lot of good ones. So I just had to share that because I know so many veterans feel the same way. So to wrap this all up, honor can be healing in itself. It can bring peace, but it can also be weaponized and paint a narrative that serves those who are bestowing it. Honor is influential. It tells younger generations what is worthy, and therefore honor needs to be done carefully and thoughtfully, as it holds a heavy weight. It needs to tell both sides of the story. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We will not have an episode of Vet Chats this weekend, but I do have an interview that I've saved for you guys to listen to, and I hope you enjoy it. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know. Send me a message. I'd love to hear your comments, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.